had an interesting thing that was going on with USC and a recruit that I want you to get to, but I also want to break down USC as well. So go ahead and get to the recruit, and I think what we're going to do here is show the changes that Lincoln, like we've poo-pooed on Lincoln Riley a lot on this show. At least I have.
And we will continue to poo-poo on Lincoln Riley on this show.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that. What I will say is that they are getting better from what they were, okay? I don't think that you can say that they're not getting better from the Clay Helton era. But what's this interesting thing that you have about the recruit and what's going on there before we start breaking down some USC?
So the headline, what spurred the discussion of talking about USC, is that they signed the last remaining top recruit in the 2023 recruiting cycle. If you happen to miss it over the weekend, Duce Robinson, who was the #1 tight end recruit, is considered to be one of the most talented tight end recruits to come out in the past decade. He is an extremely, extremely explosive athlete. Very good football player. I implore anyone to go check out his highlights because he's really, really fun to watch. He was testing the waters for the MLB. He wanted to see if that was a possibility. It seems like the feedback was not positive enough, so he decided he wants to play college football, and he picked USC, which was a little bit of the expected outcome here. Mm-hmm. What I get from this and my takeaways from this is that, like, this doesn't really mean anything for me for USC. It's great that they added the kid, and the kid's very, very, very talented, and it's going to be another big explosive first-round pick that comes out of USC's offense.
Oh, you really think he could be a first-round pick as a tight end?
He's got all the tools, and I think that plus athletes and tight end.
Number 2 now.
Right. As long as your head's on straight, if you have all the tools and you're a plus athlete, it's not hard to become a first-round pick as a tight end. It's very hard to put together kids like Duce Robinson. But where I'm like, this doesn't mean anything for me is that USC, and I have continued to harp on this, doesn't recruit outside of offensive weapons and quarterback. Like, I don't care. I want more of a commitment to the defensive side of the football. And until you show a commitment to the defensive side of the ball in your recruiting, I know they got some guys in the portal, they're going to continue to do the same crap that they did last year. This is Oklahoma West. Lincoln Riley's not winning any more games than he did last year against teams like Oregon, who bolstered their defense. And then when they jump to the Big Ten, they're going to continue to get beat by teams that actually have really good defenses, like Michigan, like Ohio State, like Iowa, all Wisconsin. It is going to be tough sledding for them if they can't figure that stuff out.
All right. So I agree with so let me preface my thought about USC. So I'm glad that they're getting recruits. I think here's my opinion. When USC is good, that means that college football is going to be good as well. I don't think that, and Joe, I know that you don't like USC as much as I don't really like Texas. Like, your Texas is, or your USC is my Texas, I guess I should say, or Alabama, whichever one, doesn't matter. Pick one, flip a coin. I agree with you, but also disagree with you, okay? I agree that defensively they have to get better. Lincoln has taken the same blueprint that he had at Oklahoma and implanting it at USC. Here's the difference for me. I think Lincoln Riley learned something. You ready? He is beefing up front. Not on just the offensive line, but defensive line. They went and got Ethan White from Florida. They went and got Michael Torquin from Florida, both interior and interior offensive lineman and tackle. Anthony Lucas is a guy that when he went to portal, I really wanted LSU to go after. He goes to USC, but it's not enough. They did have a really good recruiting class, but the two headliners of their class, Zachariah Branch, who could play corner or wide receiver, doesn't really matter, and Malachi Nelson, who's going to be a really damn good quarterback. Here's the problem that I have with USC and will continue to have with Lincoln Riley in general. Joe, here's the stats. They were 106 in total defense, 109th on third down defense, and you know how massive I look at that stat on third down. Here's where it's incredulous to me. It's not as if USC was playing juggernaut offenses. Utah might be the best offense you played, and they are not an explosive offense.
Besides Dalton Kincaid, find me one guy on there that's getting drafted earlier than the third round. It's not happening. Utah doesn't have any athletes, to your point. they're
Well,
not facing
I think
anyone explosive.
I think UCLA does have some guys that could possibly sneak in. Okay,
Like
but
Charbonnet is a good football player.
Charbonnet's a good. You're right. But regardless of that, UCLA still scored a crap load and had a crap load of yards on them. Joe, this is where Alex Grinch not only deserves to be fired, where he should have been fired. At Oklahoma, I can understand it to some extent. Here's why. Because they don't have the in-state recruiting that some states have. But he goes to California. He goes to the portal. Joe, they were 80th in rush defense. 112th in passing yards allowed in a system where a lot of the great teams that you're playing don't throw the football. Tulane was a great example of what we will call an underperforming type of school majority of the time, and a mid-major taking it to USC. Joe, if they don't get better defensively, it doesn't matter who paints their nails at USC. They're not winning a damn thing. And if they think that they're going to get them playoff with that defense, they might. You know what, Joe? They might, because their offense is going to be so explosive, might be able to outscore everybody to get to a playoff. But once they get in, once everything has been written, this year and next, they are going to get absolutely slaughtered. You know what? The last time that they went to a playoff game with these almost exact same statistics, you want to know the team that they played in the playoff was Joe Burrow and that LSU team. Then you can turn a couple years before that with Baker Mayfield in the game. Georgia, of all teams. Georgia with Jake from State Farm. Okay? Jake from State Farm literally was lighting them up to play, and then they would go on to play as a freshman.
Yes.
I just don't get the hype behind Lincoln Riley when he allows this bad of defense. I don't get it.
That's the step further that I take this. So, my opening statement here is they're going to go play in the Big Ten, and they've got one more year in the Pac-12.
Good luck.
They don't have, but let's take a step further than that. Say things go really well, and you win all those football games. You have to build a team to compete with SEC teams if you want to win a national championship. Plain and simple. That's the only way that you win a national championship. Forget about winning your conference. That's all fine and dandy if you do, but you need to be able to compete in the playoff, as you just said, against teams like LSU and Georgia when you face them. And they have both instances for when he was at Oklahoma were slaughtered, completely slaughtered. And he, in those instances, did not recruit defensive talent effectively. Most of those defensive players, very few of them went on to be high draft picks. Very few of them were highly recruited kids. And he's doing the same damn thing at USC. I don't understand why that isn't a massive red flag. That needs to be brought up as a red flag. It's not going to just get fixed with Alex Grinch, who's already a bad defensive coordinator. It's not just going to get quickly resolved. This requires efforts to go and get those 5-star defensive backs, those 5-star linebackers, those 5-star defensive linemen. My biggest issue, and I've also brought this up, is that you talked about how they have all these recruits in their backyard. Mateo Uiagalelei decided to go to Oregon, and he goes to school an hour away from you. That's a red flag. Why isn't he picking your school? It's nearby. That's a problem. They're not going to fix anything if they don't get those kids.
Yeah, and then I know this wasn't under Lincoln Riley, but who was the kid? The Thibodeau kid, right? Like, he went to Oregon.
And he was in LA. He's from Los Angeles.
Right. You have to. And Pete Carroll showed us this with Orgeron, with Kiffin, with Sarkisian. Who name the coach that was under Pete Carroll in those years? This doesn't change no matter the year. You got to lock down your region. You got to lock down LA. Joe, in this past class, they got 10 kids from California. It needs to be 15 at minimum. At minimum. Has to be at least 15, okay?
Yeah.
And then, look, I'm cool with you getting a 5-star wide receiver. I'm cool with you getting a transcendent quarterback that could be in Malachi Nelson. I'm okay with that. You got to win. You win with offensive pieces. Let's not debate that, because the facts are that you need pieces offensively to win. But when you don't get the big beef up front, when you don't go out and get that Angus beef, pause, you're going to lose. And the big thing that all these teams get confused with, okay, the only team outside the SEC that doesn't, that I guess just kind of understands this, maybe two, and we're going to talk about one of them in just a minute. Ohio State understands that you got to win up front. Michigan understands that you got to win up front. And now Oregon, with Dan Lanning, who was in the SEC, understands you got to win up front. Joe, they're not winning those battles. The simple fact that they're 80th in rush defense in the Pac-12 when you could have won your conference, Joe, it could have been with the talent that they're supposed to have in the conference that they're in. Being 80th in run defense is not only bad, it's horrendous. Now, the excuse is going to be, well, it's year one and all this. But I got to stay consistent here. Like Lincoln, like Brian Kelly, like other coaches that have come in.
Yeah.
At this exact moment, Joe, I don't want to hear that you're staying the exact same from 1 year to the next when a new coach comes in at a massive program like a Notre Dame, like a USC, like an LSU, whatever the school may be, because now you can go portaling. Do you mean to tell me that there wasn't enough defensive players in the portal last year that you couldn't have gone and got gone and to get? I don't believe that, because Joe, the truth is, if you want to say defensive lineman, okay, maybe you're right there. But you know what? 112th in pass defense is inexcusable when a third of the kids that went in the portal were DBs. It is inexcusable when you don't have the 85 scholarship limit met yet, and you can go get as many kids as you want. I'm not putting all of my chips in on USC. Let me play a little devil's advocate, though. You ready?
Yes.
If Lincoln Riley grows a set of balls and fires Alex Grinch, and he does well on the next hot DC hire, I will tell you this: watch out. The thing that intrigues me the most is if it's like, in a sense, it's like Kirby in a way. When Kirby kind of let the reins go offensively a little bit, look what happened. Okay? When he listened to Todd Monken, what happened? They're back-to-back national title winners. They're beating the dog snot out of Oregon. He's got to let Alex Grinch go. Jim Leonard would have gone to USC if you paid him the right money.
Yeah.
And Jim Leonard not only runs circles around Alex Grinch, when he's running the circles, he's giving them the buzz cut that he loves so much. If I'm a USC fan, which I don't know if there's really that many that's barking things like this, I would be outside of football ops picketing to fire Alex Grinch. He's that bad, Joe. He is that bad of a defensive coordinator. The simple fact that he's still employed is incredulous.
I just don't understand what if he didn't fire him after last year for how it was terrible. It was terrible. You just pointed out all the stats. If he didn't fire him after last year and then what we knew from his past at Oklahoma, what is going to constitute his firing this upcoming season? Because
it's going to take
realistically, they're going to improve statistically slightly based on the kids that they did add in the portal. They realistically should at least improve slightly. So if Lincoln's giving him all this long leash, is he going to sit there and say, well, you improved statistically, but I still got to get rid of you? He's given him enough fourth, fifth chances that I don't know if he's going to can him. There's too close of a relationship there that is hindering the progress of USC as a program.
I don't know. I remember Lincoln Riley's opening press conference, and he talked about Alex Grinch, and Alex Grinch, they were third in the nation in sacks. No, he didn't put that together. Jamar Cain did. My whole point in all this is, you can have any quarterback on God's given earth, and look, with it being said, I don't think it is a hot take to say that Lincoln Riley is the best quarterback developer that we have in college football. You know how I know that? because when Jalen Hurts wanted to leave Alabama, he wanted to go with Loxley to Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Saban obviously stopped that and told him, listen, you need to go to Oklahoma because that guy is the best at developing quarterbacks. When you have the GOAT saying that, you know what Lincoln Riley can do. My point with Lincoln would always be, it doesn't matter what quarterback you have. It doesn't matter that LSU had Burrow. It doesn't matter that Alabama had Bryce. It doesn't matter that Ohio State had Stroud. Like, none of that matters if you can't stop anybody. And they didn't. The thing that I think turns me off so much from USC and Lincoln Riley is Lincoln never said anything about Caleb Williams' nails. You notice how he hasn't done or didn't do that against Tulane. My question ultimately would be, does he have a stronghold on his programs to where he just lets his players do whatever he wants? I've heard a lot of stories about Lincoln Riley about just being like, it's all about my offense, and not talking about defense. And if that's the truth, Joe, he will never win a national title. Think about this. How many Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks or candidates does he have to have before him not at least playing for, right? Like just playing for a national championship before we start calling him overrated? Like that part I don't get. Every big game he coaches in, Joe, over the last 2 seasons, he's 2-6. Yeah. He's 2-6. That is not acceptable. I mean, how do you know what Nick Saban or Kirby Smart or whoever it would have been what they would kill to have quarterbacks like that he's had,
and to develop him as quickly as he's done it. I mean, I feel like the ultimate
show of how good he is as a quarterback developer.
Yes, yeah, because Jalen. Everyone was just saying he was a running back at the time when he left.
I'm old enough to remember when he would go into SEC stadiums all the time and light them up through the air. They said that because he was a black man with dreads. Let's call it what it is. He still threw for 65% of his passes. Don't tell me that he was a bad thrower and he just got to a Super Bowl. Calm down, Cheech.
Well, now he's developed and he's a really good, very good football player. And he fits perfectly in that Eagles offense. But I also think that the one, to answer your question, like how soon are we starting to call him overrated? I mean, I think that we're starting to turn the page on that discussion. We're starting to turn the page in being willing to start that conversation. I think those that are really plugged in and pay attention to the college football landscape are aware that this guy is overrated, that he is not in the upper echelon in the top 5 of national championship capable of winning coaches.
No, Joe, I'm going to be honest. Not only does he not get in my top 5, well, we didn't do coaches, we did programs. Not only is he not in my top 5, I don't know if I put him in my top 8.
I'd have to think of who I would rank ahead of him, but there's enough coaches out there that have competed in or won national championships that he would deserve to be over. Well, here's the ones
off the top of my head that I'd put. You ready? Some of these you won't like. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney. You're gonna hate this one. This
Brian
is a no
Kelly.
specific. Brian Kelly.
He's got 2 national championship games, so it's
look, and I'm gonna tell you this. Mac Brown. I mean, listen, they're not that. I get that Mac hasn't had a lot of great years at North Carolina, but what does it matter? He's still a national championship winning coach. He's still gotten to 2 of them. I can name 2 more that I like more. You want me to tell you the truth? I don't know if I wouldn't put Harbaugh ahead of him. I mean, Harbaugh has had more success at 2 programs than what Lincoln has had so far.
He still yet to win a national championship is where I'm a little wary to.
But he did it at Stanford, Joe. He did it with the damn tree. Okay, so I would even put Harbaugh in that discussion. Maybe you could debate for 7. Maybe you can debate for 7. I will tell you another one that you won't like. Due to his history, and I know that you hate this guy, Jimbo still has won 79% of his games. Joe, 79% of his games. Lincoln Riley's like at 84, but it doesn't.
Well, he's
matter.
also won a national championship game too, so which is why like you have to give him a little bit more credit than Lincoln.
You're damn right. And you know what? You know what Jimbo doesn't do? What Jimbo doesn't get credit for? Dude, look at the games against LSU, Alabama. I don't remember the last time if they played Georgia. You know what doesn't happen to them? They don't get blown out.